On this episode of In the House, Michael and I sit down with Luke Gaffney of Civil Steel here in Austin, Texas. Luke tells us how he ended up in Texas and how he found his way into the steel industry. Luke holds himself and his team to a very high standard, the civil standard. So naturally, we talk about how his passion drives a high level of quality, craftsmanship, and pride. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do, share the podcast with a friend. Thanks for listening. Upgrade your construction layouts with trademarks. These heavy-duty vinyl markers are designed to withstand harsh job site conditions. They're durable, waterproof, and perfect for marking locations for electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and more. Available in trade-specific colors, trademarks make communication with your team simple, professional, and reliable. Whether you're recording benchmarks, elevations, or centerlines, trademarks ensure your layouts stay intact, even under heavy traffic. New customers enjoy 15% off at checkout. Visit trademarklayout.com to get yours today. Luke, I honestly have to say about you, every time I call you or text you, you're always in the middle of, like, whatever the most masculine thing, you're always, like, I'll call you and you're like, oh, sorry, I was up on the roof welding, my bad, man. And then I text you like, sorry, man, I was under the hood working on my truck, like, whatever the coolest, it's like, manliest thing, like, you're usually in the middle of it. Yeah. So, you know, you're really making me feel...
And then I make you feel worse by making you listen to my voicemail.
Yeah, the worst voicemail ever. Have you heard it?
No. Oh, is it the howdy? This is.
It's awful. It's like
this is Luke Gaffney with Civil Steel.
Howdy, partner. I reckon you were trying to track down Luke Gaffney. Yeah. Get along, little dog.
That's like if Luke Gaffney got dropped off in the middle of West Texas for 10 years.
Also, the fun part about it is that everybody that knows me is like, hey, man, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then it's the new clients that expect...
some degree of professionalism.
Yeah, like Chris Walter Booth to like come in, but like full Stetson. Like get out of like an F-450 super, like just weathered, like hardcore cowboy. And then they meet me and I'm like flippy hair,
you're
flat
just like, you're a regular bro.
I'm allergic to horses. Like, I'm a very concrete cowboy.
Wait, but don't you own some sort of farm animal?
Mini donkeys.
That's right. It's mini donkeys.
Really?
Isn't that hilarious? Mini donkeys.
For what?
That's a great question.
They're hilarious. They
haul things around the shop.
Can you milk them?
They're boys, so
yes.
So
Not really.
yes and no.
Yeah. So no.
Now my wife and I lived in when we moved to Dripping Springs. We kind of got kicked out of Austin by the city of Austin.
Nice.
We were living in a duplex, and somebody, I think you guys have seen my truck. I have an obnoxiously large truck. And I think one of the neighbors really didn't like my truck. Never met me, but I would cut my grass at a 45-degree angle, like meticulously take care of the yard. And then it was like Hobo Central. It's off of South First by the railroad tracks. We lived in a purple duplex.
Heck yeah.
And we had a like tow behind A-frame pop-up camper that we'd keep underneath the carport with our motorcycles. And somebody kept calling the code enforcement that we had a non-motorized motor vehicle under our carport. Apparently in the city of Austin, that's illegal.
Whoa.
And so, hey, you have to move
non-motorized
vehicle. Like a boat. Well, like a sailboat.
You can't have
under your carport.
So if it has a motor in it, you can store it under a carport.
Yeah. So kayaks, pop-up campers. Jeez, so somebody went through the code book to figure it out.
Wow.
What we were doing wrong. Code enforcement comes and knocks and, hey, you got to do something about this. And at the time, it's like, I live in a duplex. What do you want me to do? Like, I don't have property. I don't have
a bicycle.
Right.
I don't know, man. I
thought they're all about riding bikes.
But you go up and down South Lamar, like where we lived, and there's legitimately like homeless encampments all over the place. People had like condemned houses.
Yeah.
I live in this purple one with like the really manicured lawn and the Tonka truck. Like, somebody's headhunting.
Yeah.
And the code enforcement, I'd never talk to them. They'd always go when my wife was home. Hey, you got to do something about this. Like, I feel bad because your property looks great, whatever. Somebody's calling us. Somebody calls us, we have to show up. He's like, got it, Roger.
Wow.
We'll do something. He's like, you can build an 8-foot fence around it, 6 or 8 foot, whatever it is. But you can build a fence around it to hide it. No, I'm not building it.
Yeah. You're like,
And,
God, come on.
so
I'm not paying for that.
From then on, we started looking for property. We were saving money we moved out to Dripping Springs. We were renting a 2-story house on 5 acres with a creek that ran through it for less than a duplex.
That's incredible.
The code enforcement came back and he's like, hey, you haven't done anything with it. Like, you're going to start getting fined $500 a day unless we had already signed the lease. So my wife like kind of trips out on him and he's like, we're already on it. We're moving. Like, he's like, I didn't mean to do that. But when we moved to Dripping Springs, that we made a promise that we'd never move back to the city, even if we got really comfortable and like wanted to be closer to stuff. So our guarantee was to get mini donkeys. We'd never. So we go on Facebook and we're young. I think we're like early 20s. To find out mini donkeys live on average 35 years. You have to have a pair. You can't have one unless the one has a horse or a goat. It has to have a friend. Donkeys will kill themselves from a lonely heart.
Wow. That's epic.
They'll stop eating.
Oh.
Depression.
Interesting.
So they're so much fun. And so
that sounds like me, honestly. I think I'd do the same thing.
We have 2 kids and I'm not, 33. So my kids will be my age by the time these things potentially kick in. And so like we didn't buy chores for ourselves. We got chores for the next generation. Nice. But this
is a long-term investment.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. We can't so then back in November we bought our house, but we were kicking ourselves so hard because you had to have the amount of property for each donkey. I think it takes 1 acre or something like that. It might be half an acre, but we had to so we need a minimum of 2, but that's the minimum of 2 for the donkey. Then we have to have and so my wife's like, how much do we love these? I'm like, no. We did this to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so now we have a slew of chickens, donkeys, dogs. And what's really fun, if you guys know Ben from Livewire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben McCullough.
Yeah.
So he's got llamas. So his welding company is llamas.
He does have llamas.
No way.
Weird, like welder thing. And he's not far. He's down in Wimberley, I think.
Dude, that's a crazy guy.
And so somehow we have to fight. Like somehow we have to meet in the field.
Oh yeah, you got to show down.
You steel guys are a different breed.
Have a weld off or something.
But no, there's some stories that are like my wife went to the hospital for an appendix burst, but she got kicked by a donkey the day before, and so she has a huge welt. And I showed up to the hospital looking the way I do, just covered in steel dust.
Yeah,
they wouldn't let me in with her.
No,
because they thought it was a
they
domestic.
Were like,
because the donkey kicked the inside of her thigh, like right above her knee, and it was a baseball size welt.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody's like, "Oh, a donkey kick," it's all meat. It's their only defense.
Yeah.
And you'll have to ask Ben the story. His wife went to the hospital.
No way.
And it was Ben. Don't hate me for messing this story up, but it's great. She was watching. She was making spaghetti, and one of their llamas was colicking, I think. So it's like its intestines are flipped. It's on its side.
Yeah.
She jumps down to go run out and get it, and either cuts herself on a knife that was on the countertop, and then hits the boiling water.
Oh man!
And then
gosh.
Ben's like, screw these llamas. They go to the hospital and then try to explain to them the situation and how she's burned and cut. And I was like,
what a mess.
Yeah, it's great talking to Ben because we have a lot of the same, what?
How did we get ourselves in this situation?
Ben's a crazy guy, man. How,
so good.
and you break him up I've often wondered, like, how is the competition here in Austin? Like, y'all seem to know each other and actually like help each other out quite often. So it's like
It's probably a small world.
it is a small world, but it's like you're in competition with each other. You know, you're running separate businesses, but you're also friends, and you help each other out quite often. Is that common?
It's ironic that we bring it up. Like, I'm trying to make that more common in the metal space, in a whole the trade space. I don't know enough about the other trades to like bring them in yet. I'm in conversation with a couple of different welders, like the owners of different companies, because we are friends. To like, I think we all have our own lanes that we specialize in, right? Like, I might do some structural, but Ben's gonna blow me out of the water with structural, right? And then, but Ben also does the same kind of architectural. And he's super good at it, but like, which one is his lane more, right? Because you have to focus, you have to make that divide. Yeah. And getting with these guys and being like, hey, what's your focus? And trade. We're all married. We're all running a company. And we all have kids. There's no free time. There's no like, hey, let's hang. But let's carve some time out to meet at one of our shops once a month or something and go over who's good clients, who's bad clients, I let this guy go, but he's a super stout guy. This is why I let him go. And I think he would be better suited, right?
That's
like
really
I picked
cool.
him up from the oil field and he's really good at structural. He's just not getting patinaed brass down. But I think if anybody can hire him, or I've got a telehandler, you have a telehandler, your telehandler went down, come borrow mine, right? Instead of us going out to Genie and or all these different companies to rent stuff, hey man, like just come borrow mine. Do you have a machine I can borrow?
Yeah.
And so we all have stuff that we can scratch each other's backs with. But too many people are focused on like my money, we all like bring up Daglish. How many of those guys, like Chris from Moonlight, another one, right? It's like, hey Chris, do you have this piece of material? Yeah. I mean, I only need 4 feet of it. I don't want to go buy a 20-foot stick. Yeah. And so we're constantly either sharing resources, and what I'm trying to do is get all of these guys to be more friends with each other, because Austin in Central Texas isn't a industrial city, right? Like there isn't a ton of welding shops. Like everybody, and this is no offense to Christian, but like there's a ton of like what I call them drop house dropouts that start their own companies. But it's like, let me talk to you about my failures in starting a company. Like I had a bookkeeper that was stealing from me. Yeah. How did I find out? How did I recover? Yeah. I want to see more welding shops open up so that if I'm friends with them, that's more resources for me. Yeah. Right. I can get those guys to give me a hand, or I can give them more work, because what I don't want to do is let down the builders. And that's not because you guys are a client of mine, but like,
no,
telling you like
that makes sense.
Like we'll get it done, and if I can't get it done, I'll get somebody to get it done. Well, if my Rolodex is only so deep of guys that can help me get it done, then I got to call you back and be, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, and so
there's something to be said about the whole like industry or trade, like being brought up to the next level, right? Like, how do you move everyone up? You know, when you've got clients asking for, it's like, hey, what can we do? Well, what can we do? You know, like there's opportunity there, but when everyone's playing for themselves, you know, when everyone's trying to keep it secret, and that lowers the level of your whole, you know,
like that saying,
the whole bar.
What, 2 minds are better than one, you know? So it's like, it's a collaborative effort. And I think that's great that it seems like you're trying to head up this effort.
Yeah. And so like I said, with the minimal amount of time, and as much as you're trying to get a hold of me and I'm not available, right? Then in even that free time. So I'm going to try and get with these guys and make this thing happen. And I think we do, because I wouldn't say I'm at the top, but that part where it's lonely at the top, I can't. there's not a lot of people that I can bounce the current situation off of, right? And so then I end up talking to my buddies that own welding companies and like, how is this situation? Like, oh yeah, I've been through that. Like, oh, I've got, like, I started a company, then got married, and then had a kid. And it's like, I really enjoy that because I was able to jump and not worry about too much. But I really wish I would have done this so much like earlier because I regret not being able to give my shop like me for hours on end. I would love to just stay there, like, because I'm super passionate about it. I love what I do, and so it's really hard to like hang it up at 4, 6, whatever time, and then go be at home with my family, which I love nothing more to do. But it's like I still want to do all that grinding, and then I have this thing with my wife where I'll leave my phone in my truck, or I'll go home and just plug it in, and so I'm good about it sometimes, and then I start like it starts following me in, right? And then I start playing with it. But I really try and put like, you can't go to CVS at I don't know if CVS is 24 hours, but there's so many. You can't go to Home Depot at 2 a.m. and be like, I need this thing. You go online, you see their hours, and you just have to wait until they open to get what you need. And so why is it different? Because I'm a small business that you get to call me at 11 o'clock at night or start texting me, hey, where's this thing? Like, no, I've got a family. Like, check it out. Go to civilsteel.com, see our hours, check us out on Google. The hours are there. Like, we're a legitimate company. Don't holler at me while I'm. Now, I think that rule gets broken because sometimes the lines are blurred between friendship and the client, but I also like that blurred line. Like I'd like you guys to hit me up and say, hey, what are you doing on Memorial Day? And so that's when I know I'm doing things right, whenever you enjoy the company and the product. But
that's one thing about our type of work is there's definitely a communal aspect to it. I mean, it's like regardless of our roles, it's like if we can't hang out and have a beer afterward, like we're probably not doing something right. There's probably a miss there.
Well, and I think, not to be taken the wrong way, but we're all just people at work, right? There's no reason to make anybody's, unless you're not doing work well, but you can talk and get work done, or you can have a good relationship. Like, you don't have to put on your angry boots because it's 8 a.m. and you're at work now. But you can still be an enjoyable person with standards and expectations, right? I see it a lot with you, Michael, where it's like we're laughing and joking. You're like, you still need to make this right. Me joking with you about your climber bag of chalk that's not chalk isn't me trying to skate around. Like, we still have
exactly. I think for the GCs, like that can be challenging. I've seen that look a variety of different ways, and you're right. When you can still have a relationship and be like, like, hey, there's urgency here. We need to get this done. But also, like, how are you doing, or what's going on, or like, you look like an idiot back there. Just like joking around.
I think people take advantage of when people are too nice, and so that's where people are like, don't give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm still
don't mistake kindness for weakness.
But
that's
still,
a good
be friendly, right? Like, we're all here for. I mean, how long do these houses typically take?
Oh yeah, years. I mean,
years.
They're long burns.
Probably 2 years minimum, I'd say.
And you can sit there with the concrete crew, and then the framers and the plumbers and stuff. And it's like, if you're being rude, or that relationships, they're showing up tomorrow and the next day, and if you got to keep up that angry attitude for a long time, and then you start taking it home. Like, enjoy it, right? But I think that one's kind of, we'll never see that level out. But
I kind of, I mean, you have kids. I kind of see, honestly, dealing with other people, or even just subcontractors, like dealing with kids. Like, you don't want to be abusive, right? You don't want to be yelling and screaming. But it's like, you got to be friendly and, offer some gentle encouragement and some direction, and let them know, like, this is what's expected of you. And, just like kids, sometimes they might cross a line or push a boundary, and you have to like smack them on the ass and be like, hey, listen here.
Especially those steel guys.
Especially those steel guys, man. You got to smack them around and say, this is not right.
Are your kids, are they, I mean, the Armstrong household, are you just building projects left and right out there? So you got the trades divided out at your house?
I do.
Yeah. I can see that.
They all have their roles.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't pay them.
I think my thing, though, is whenever, like, we get brought in because we're professional at what we do, right? And I expect as much from every other trade. And this goes for the high end. So we stay in the high end residential and small commercial. As long as you don't see OSHA, that's where we reside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Not that we're unsafe, but there's a lot of red tape. And we're like, we do that Homer Simpson meme where we back into the
it's like, see y'all later.
When you have safety guys like checking out your extension cords to see if they've been swapped and stuff, like, it's too hard.
And tell us a little bit about that from like running your own business too, because you've been pretty intentional about what jobs you've taken and not taken.
Yeah, very much so.
And I think there's a common like kind of idea of like, oh, like residential, there's no money. Residential, it's, like more unskilled than commercial. There's kind of these different, but that's not what I'm hearing you say, and that's not my experience.
Well, and I think it goes back to like your lane and what you're in, right? If you get into structural steel doing HEBs, right, where their tolerances are, I don't even know what their tolerances are, right, but they're wild.
Got to be inches.
Yep, inches over. Not that far. And they just have to get that thing up as quick as possible because the amount of people either funding it or behind and whatever. So just kind of get it done and put the Band-Aid on it. And I think you get into a lot of competition with union work out there. That's a whole different conversation. But if you come from that world and then you come out to our structural side where it'll take you so much longer to hang one column because it's an exposed column and those welds can't look like bubble gum. Like they all might. What's really fun is you'll get an inspector that comes out and inspects your structural work. And when they stop and they're like, man, I haven't seen them look this good in a long time. You're like, that's all I want.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's a good compliment.
And then you invite the PM to come out and slap the level on there and be like, check it out. Check it out. Yeah. And then the framers come through and then the framers tell you how wrong you were. You're like, it's perfectly off.
Yeah.
No, and so it's there. You can't have a huge crew on some of these structural projects. Like one house might only have 4 columns, but other houses might have a ton of them. And so there's kind of this back and forth. But I was getting beat up in that realm because the same guys that would do the structural are the same guys that will do the brass work. Right. And so I can't, to retool, to re-gear and run structural and then the architectural, because there's been projects where we'll be there from the structural all the way out to the landscape. And so we're just swapping machines, filler metal, the material itself from brass to stainless to like A36 structural, and just constantly going through it. And so what we're trying to do is just make sure that we're staying in that lane. But when you like our shower doors at the one project we did, those brass ones, those couldn't not be perfect, right? So that metal work, and so the company's Civil Steel, but I was really, really hesitant when I put the word steel in there because it's really metal work. I mean, we don't, the amount of back and forth between all the different mediums of metal, we aren't just steel, but I think there's a ton of with the clientele, with the amount that people are spending on us, there's a lot of high end like expectation for that finished work, and so it's not that HEB it can be off by a couple inches. It's got to be
squint at it. It'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's how does it? And sometimes we can't be perfect because the stonework isn't perfect, right? You have to chase the stucco or something, and
sometimes that's the look. It's like rustic, kind of that feel to it, and so you gotta. How do you make it look perfect, but also blend into the perfectly imperfect?
And so we used to be like, oh, we'll do it so perfect that we'll highlight everybody else's imperfection. And it's like, at the end of the day, that's not going to help the client. They're going to be looking at a column up against their stucco, and their stucco is gradually getting further and further away because we're perfect. And so then it's like, no, we're going to have that constant, like, I don't know, 3/16 reveal. And so we're going to do crooked to keep up, because nobody's going to call that stucco crew back out and be like, you have to float this thing perfectly. Right. And so what I really enjoy about it, though, is monotony scares the hell out of me. And so that HEB style, and there's nothing wrong with HEB.
No.
I love structural and playing with cranes and everything, but the monotony of doing one HEB after the other and doing that kind of stuff scares the hell out of me. Like I need to go from brass to landscape, and even at that, like, I'm paying my guys the same no matter what they're doing. So if you want us to do landscape, it's going to be kind of expensive for landscape, but if you do brass, like, it's going to be pretty reasonable. Because I can't go on Friday and be like, hey guys, we did all last week was landscape steel. You get paid less because you can't charge. Right. And that's what's a trip too, is that people have a lower expectation for pricing on landscape steel because you throw the word landscape in front of it. Right? You have structural steel, architectural, landscape. Like, you tier those on how expensive they should be. But the material, like, from the supplier, they don't ask you, is this for a landscape? It's going to get cheaper.
Yeah, like, oh, well, that'll be 20% less.
If anything, like, structural is so much, I can't say easier because the metal is heavier. Like, you're just on a white slab, it's hot as heck. But you have these embed points and these elevations, and typically there's nothing in your way. But landscape, you're like trenching along, and here's a line. Is it electrical? Is it water?
What's
is
going
it
on
new water
here?
Line? Is it like, what's happening? And then we have to notch it out, and so the finished product above ground has to be perfect. But there's so much stuff underground, and then it's just mud, and all of your stuff's getting dirty and ruined, and like it takes so long to get something perfect, dealing with all the elements, that landscape should be more expensive, but people don't want to spend that much on
sit a plate in the ground,
and you'll go past the people that went cheaper, and you're like, ooh, that's a snake. That thing just kind of wherever, because they'll take rebar and just keep going tink, 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 and then weld it off and go to the next one. The rebar never hit anything, and it's just kind of floating in there, and you kicked it to get it straight. There's nothing holding it back. So you need to anchor that stuff. You need to, it's just,
there's a lot of ways to cut corners.
There's a right way to do that. One of my favorite Luke Gaffney stories is we were working on this project and doing installing this outdoor grill, and he looks up at this at some structural steel. He's like, oh, those guys put that beam in upside down. And I was like, what do you mean they put in, how do you put an I-beam in upside down? And he was like, yeah, look at the markings on the side. Those all should be right side up, the like stamp of the manufacturer and everything. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's next level right there.
Well, that, and constantly keeping in mind where the seam is. And so whenever you're mitering everything, like square tube and or any tube is going to have, unless it's DOM, which is drawn over manual, but anything hot rolled in the tube form or pipe is going to have a seam in it. And so being very, very intentional with that seam. And so if you walk up and never see a seam, great. If you walk up and see one seam and the rest is no seam, you're like, oh, you messed up,
second.
Right? Yeah. And so even if you prime it, even if you paint it, it's going to have a little bit of imperfection where that seam is on the backside. And so constantly my guys will come up, hey, seam on the inside, seam down, seam like, because if you're going to make like right now we're doing a big trellis with cattle, like we're making our own cattle panel, and But do you want the seam in so that all your cattle panels hitting a seam, or do you want the seam in?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want it in because
you'll see all of them.
From the house, the bay of windows, you're going to see all the seams. So yeah, like where are you going to put it? Right. So it's kind of always this fun thing of like, even like it's a butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
If you just grab it, start chopping it up, it's like you're going to have seams everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. That's what always struck me about you, Luke, is like you really pay attention to all the really fine details, and it's like things that you wouldn't even think about, and like you're asking all these questions like on a door, building a door or window package, and it's like, heck, I didn't even think of that. Like, you've always demonstrated the deep knowledge in what you do, and I think that that really shows through because, like you said, I mean, you can tell that you're passionate about what you do. Mm-hmm. You can 100% just by having one conversation, like everything that you do is driven by this passion, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit. I want to back up and hear your story. Like, how did you even get into steel work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing my wife texted me before we came out was, let the other guys talk, because whenever it gets onto talking about metal, there's so many rabbit holes. Like whenever we were talking about the HEB thing, I was like, am I answering the question? Like I keep going down, right? Yeah. So how did I get into this is kind of a fun one in relativity. It always has to back up a little bit, where I grew up in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
That's all we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Steel guy.
Went to an all-guys boarding school. Suit and tie every day.
Come on.
No facial hair, right? Which is ironic. Like,
that is ironic.
Wow. Yeah. So if you were to see me right now,
so many things are making sense right now. This is
so anybody listening, you probably see me on Civil Steel's Instagram, but long hair, super long beard. I think once I graduated high school, threw that razor away. Right? Yeah. I've always had a beard ever since. So yeah, clean cut, suit and tie every day, tie with my eyes closed, and all I wanted to do is like make stuff with my hands, right? Yeah, so art class was my favorite. Jewelry, metalsmithing. It wasn't a reform school; it was a prep school. So my roommate went to the Naval Academy. I toured the Naval Academy. Nice. Bunch of like Ivy Leagues. And come senior year, they're like, hey, what's everybody doing? What do you want to do? And I'm tripping out because everybody knows. And I'm like, I'm panicking. Right? Yeah. I really wanted to go to the Naval Academy. I toured the Naval Academy and I'm like, I'm way too dumb to go to the Naval Academy. Is some, right? But it sounded good to my girlfriend's parents. Like, right? You go and tell people what you plan on doing.
They're like,
everybody's like,
yeah, that's a great idea.
And, so the next best thing was I was going to join the military and then just go be an officer or something. I didn't pass my medical evaluation. And so, but being a good kid at an all guys boarding school, somebody said no. And I was like, okay. Yeah. Right? Like that was the answer. Like I talked to all my military buddies now, they're like, you could have just gone to a different recruiter and lied. And I was like, oh, that wasn't built in. Somebody's like, you can't do that. Like, all right, sounds good. And so I start panicking. The college administration's like, you have to do something, right? Like, this doesn't look good for them if I don't do anything. Yeah. And
we had this one kid.
So I trip out. I don't know what to do. At the time, my brother was going to the University of Wyoming. And I was like, hey, man, can I? And he's like, yeah, man, come on out. So I told my parents I'm going to move to Wyoming.
Sweet.
And so everybody was kind of like deflated balloon. So, but what I thought was going to be cool was I was going to move roughly 1,500, 2,000 miles away from anybody or anything that I knew and try it all over again.
Yeah.
And me and my brother moved to Cheyenne. So he was in Laramie, where the University of Wyoming is. We both meet up in Cheyenne. My dad drove out with me, hugged me goodbye, dropped him off in Denver, and then I cut ties with my parents financially.
Yeah.
Other than health insurance, because I wasn't 26 yet, so I could still.
Deal.
But
Yep,
new
26
cell phone.
year old.
So if you guys call me, that's why I have a Wyoming phone number.
Nice.
Right. So that was my first week there. Got off parents' cell phone, like
Yeah.
everything. Just cut ties.
Yeah.
And power shut off all the time. Like we were scraping by. But I signed up to go to the local community college, and then they asked, like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, damn, again? You guys want to know what I want to do? I just ran from that. And so like, what are you passionate about? And I was like, art. And they're like, what do you want to do with your art? And I was like, oh, sell it. Like, so like business. And I said, yeah. So I majored in art and business.
Sweet.
And
Nice.
you go from a prestigious all guys boarding school. It's called Kiski Prep. You go from there to a community college in the least populated state in the U.S. and find out I was really bored in class. I was like, this is y'all aren't teaching anything.
Wow, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So obviously I did 2 years of that because it was fun, right? Like, the community college, like, because there's not a lot of higher education in Wyoming, the community college is actually popping, right? We had
Sweet.
dorms and sports teams and
No
everything,
way.
but we didn't have a football team. We had a rodeo team,
Oh,
right?
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So there's a huge
so
eat barn
Wyoming.
center. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't go to like the frat parties. The bull riders would be having a party.
Yeah.
And
That's
growing
epic.
up,
That's so epic.
I was a little like wannabe cowboy kid in Western PA, which isn't cowboy, right? Like it's so I always wore belt buckles, but I never rode to win a belt buckle. You just go to the Western store and buy a belt buckle and go to one of these bull riding parties, and I walk in and immediately they're like, where'd you win that? And I look down, it's got a big old cross on it. And I was like, church camp? And from then on, I realized like you had to earn your buckle. You couldn't just go and buy, right? And so to this day, I don't wear a buckle that I haven't earned. But did 2 years there, and I'm just complaining. Like, I don't know. Like in art class, you start painting. Like the teacher does the whole thing in the middle of the room where it's like, I don't know, today's a vase with
Still
flowers
life
and all.
or whatever.
People coming in and posing, and I'm painting. And
Lonnie took a lot of those classes in his
easy
construction
dose.
science degree.
I posed.
No, he's,
Yeah.
he's the
That's how
mom.
you get it, Grant. But I'm painting, and I look over at everybody else, and I'm like, oh, yours looks like that. Like, mine's way more abstract. All to realize, like, I wasn't as good of an artist as I thought I was. I could see it. I couldn't make it happen.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I could.
Yeah.
And so, like, me and my brother hanging out one night, and dude, I don't know what I want to do. This isn't it. Like, I'm going to be a starving artist, and I'm not nowhere near as good as my friends. And he's like, have you looked into welding? And I was like, no. I don't even, like, what is it even, right? And he's like, I'll tell you what it is. It's a bunch of rich dudes with cool trucks.
That's pretty accurate.
So I called my parents, and I said, hey, I want to drop out of college. I want to go to welding school. They're like, where? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even know there was welding school. But
Good question. Let me get back to you.
my dad's like, hey, I think I know somebody that works at Lincoln Electric. Lincoln Electric's in Cleveland, Ohio, about 4 hours away from Pittsburgh. And so, I don't know, it's not far to know somebody from the neighboring city. And so he calls him up and said, hey, my son wants to be a welder. And he said, does he know anything about it? And he said, no. And he's like, tell him don't look into welding. Just come to school. It's like, is this good school? And he's like, we charge next to nothing for our program. And that you'll walk away as a Lincoln Electric rep. And it worked, right? I don't have college pride. I have welding.
Welding school.
I don't want
pride.
to touch a Miller. What is it? So I packed my bags. I flew home, drove home, and I enrolled in welding school. And they're like, they didn't want me to look into it, learn anything, try it, because it's all bad habits, right? If they can get you as a fresh slate. And so it was hilarious. Like the group of guys, I was the only one there with the background of like all guys boarding school. Like whatever it was. And went through everything, but my path was pipeline. Right, so I specialized in pipeline welding. Like I went to all the extra courses and everything, to the extent that I bought a Dodge 3500 welding truck. Like I got my SA 200. I was ready to go hit the line. And I'm back in Pennsylvania, Cleveland, like back and forth, right? And that's the natural gas is all through West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. And so I get out of school and I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to weld. Yeah. And I'm all certified for pipeline. And I go to like a job fair for the natural gas, the oil field, what we call it oil field. Texans are like, that ain't oil.
Yeah,
it's the same
exactly.
thing. It's not the same thing. And I go interview. They're like, you have to be somebody's helper for a long time. Like you have to learn this stuff before we just let you weld pipe on stuff that's carrying natural gas. Kid. And I'm like, but I have the truck.
Yeah, you're like, come on, I'm ready.
And they said, how about you be a tax assistant, which is we would build the oil rig, the derrick and the backyard and all that stuff. And so I made my way up, not welding, in natural gas. And I had the truck and I would hang out with all the welders and I would weld, but it wasn't in natural gas. Interesting. And so in the ebbs and flow that it is, the highs and lows, and the low is so dumb. I was salary as an oil field worker, on call 24/7.
Oh, dude.
But as was it 21, 22? I was like, I'm salary, like Dad.
Let's go.
Like, your salary, I'm salary.
Come on.
I didn't know that I was making $4 an hour. Like they gave me a brand new F350, all the tools, cell phone, everything, and they're just like, but if that phone rings, like Christmas morning at 2 a.m, it rang, and I had to drive to New York.
Wow.
And when you were on, like, you would get to a well pad and you wouldn't leave until you were finished. I'd stayed on a well pad for, I want to say, 38 hours.
Wow.
Like, and you couldn't leave. You couldn't go to the grocery store, like, go get food. So like tuna packs and
because it was like emergency status, kind of you're just like fixing crap.
Yeah,
or something.
And you're just a part of a rotating crew, and so if a bunch of guys just got off of a rig up, and you're getting called to like an emergency call, like none of those guys might have just got off an 18-hour shift. None of them are coming out to rescue you,
right? Yeah.
And so you would have to wait until that rotation cycled enough for somebody to replace you, only if it made sense enough. And so whenever one of those like valleys came, all the equipment would come back and we'd be painting it in the yard. And so then you're like, hey, what am I doing with my life? I'm just painting big like oil field stuff, the company color. And so I'm the youngest of 4. And so I was with my second oldest brother in Wyoming. My sister and other brother lived in New York City, and my sister wasn't happy in New York. And so everybody in natural gas was from Texas or Oklahoma.
Yeah, baby.
Mm-hmm. We had hard hats. If you're from Pennsylvania and had it was a big thing to collect stickers. And so we would have stickers on our hard hat with the outline of Pennsylvania that said Taft. This ain't effing Texas. Like, everybody up there, well, back home, this is how we would do it. This isn't Texas.
Get that crap out of here.
And so, but these guys, the way that they would talk about Texas and brag about it, I was like, they're like, that's where welders are from. That's welding. And so whenever the downturn hit and I'm out there painting, I've got this welding truck and all my gear and all my stuff, I'm like, I'm going to go to Texas. And so I called my sister. I'm like, moving to Texas. You want to go? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I needed a roommate, right?
Yeah.
And so, but how does a welder find a job out of state, right?
Yeah.
I'm new to this.
tricky.
I don't know. And so a lot of it's just come in for a welding test. That's all you can do. And so my sister's like, let's go to Austin. And I'm like, that's a capital, plenty of oil there. And so I start telling all my buddies in the oil field, natural gas, they're like, I'm moving to Texas. They're like, to the motherland. They're like, where are you going? And I'm like, Austin. They're like, didn't think you swung that way.
That's weird.
Like,
yeah.
what do you mean? Like, this
That's
is your
weird.
capital.
Yeah.
Like, this is, and they're like, yeah, you're in for a surprise. And I showed up. There's not a derrick or an oil patch in sight. That there was Barton Springs. There's a lot of pretty girls. There's a UT. I'm like, all right, I got swindled here. This isn't what I expected, but the girls are pretty and there's a lot of fun stuff to do. So I got a job building shade structures, $12 an hour.
Come on.
I would show up in this pipeline truck and all, like, welders tend to be like criminals.
Yeah.
At a certain pay grade, they're not great people. And they're like, what are you doing here? And I've got this pretty colorful background of like touring the country and doing everything. And so whenever I got a job interview with Ben, they're like, wow, it's about time you left. Like, we were wondering why you're here. And but I had a buddy from church that was a architect, and he was like, I think I'm gonna get you an interview with a builder. He's from Pittsburgh. It's Matt Reisinger.
Nice.
I'm gonna get you an interview with these guys. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, people don't weld on houses. I'm from Pennsylvania. Like, that's the architecture doesn't have that. Like, we have Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah, it's all arts and crafts.
And all that. There's a ton of metal from Pennsylvania, but there's not architectural. And so whenever he's like, I'm gonna get you in with this builder, it didn't click what people were doing with metal down here.
Yeah.
And I met with Ben, and he's like, can you, like, Ben had ulterior motives. They needed a window and door package that was super far out, and the client was expecting it, and he needed somebody to do it for the same budget. So he figured if it was in-house, he could control it, make sure it got done right and everything. So that's where I came into play. And he's like, hey, can you weld windows and doors? And I'm like, they're all rectangle. Like, I'm out of school and an art kid. And I'm like, yeah. So I just lied through my teeth this whole interview. Fake it till you make kind of deal. And I did it, right? I did this entire project, and it was a very famous person's house in Austin now, has a podcast, very renowned podcast.
That's awesome.
But
Who could it be?
his entire window and door package is done from a kid who had no idea what he was doing.
That's awesome. Good for you, man.
Welding up all the thresholds and everything.
He'd probably be down for that, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, so I went and saw him at a show the one time, and he takes Q&A at the end of it, and I'm like this. Like, I got my hand up, and my buddy is like, what are you going to... I was like, I'm going to tell him that I did all of his windows and doors. He's like, what if they don't work?
He's like, that's
probably
good. Yeah.
If he's like, oh, I've been looking to see
Yeah.
they all leak and everything. And so, but that's the shade structure stuff, is that monotony that I was scared of, right? I was grabbing an envelope off the wall, doing the same thing over and over every day. And it was terrible. I didn't look forward to the next day. Like, I liked welding, but this gave me a new problem to solve every day or every week or whatever it was. And then once you finish that, hey, we need a lintel. And you're like, huh? And so I'm over here looking up Austin code rule. Like, I'd never built a staircase, but hey, can you build this staircase? Yeah. What's a rise and run? All this stuff. Yeah. And so just putting it together, figuring it out all the time, and just everything's clicking all the time, and it was so much fun. And now, so I bounced around a couple of home builders, starting welding divisions within their company. Then I went and worked for a legitimate fab shop, because my goal ended up being like, so this is my new art medium, right? Instead of drawing hands or painting stuff. This is my new medium. In that business part of school, this is what I want to do with it, right? I can't paint what I want to make, but I can weld what I want to make.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I want to open my own company. And so I went to another, like a welding fab company, wood and metal work, because I'm like, I need to see the inner workings of how they do this, because I've started within two different home builders, but I'm the only employee, and then I bring some in, and then I buy the equipment. I need to see like how somebody else that's proficiently doing this is doing it. And so from working with Risinger, like I got a lot of internet celebrity, like not a huge amount, but if he would tag me and be like, oh, looks weird, I'd get 20 new followers. And so whenever I put the blood in the water that I was leaving, like a handful of fab shops were like, we'll pay you. Come. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you guys don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so a company came out to my house and to interview me. And I was like, oh, these guys actually are legit. They went out of their way to drive to Dripping Springs to meet with me.
Heck yeah.
And spent time there until I would moonlight at another fab shop. After I hit my 40, I'd go and work at another shop, and everybody kind of knew my plan was to start my own company. And so the shop that I would moonlight at was, the guy was like, hey, I'm moving to New Mexico and I'm getting rid of the company. You want to buy it? And I'm like,
dang.
Yeah, how much do companies sell for?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. And so some back and forth. I'm like, I've never bought a company. I bought some trucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
How does one
like,
finance a company?
Yeah.
And we made it work. And that company is DOB Fabrication. Now they're in New Mexico. And so I pretty much just jumped in the driver's seat, had a huge list of company names. They're like, what do I want to call this thing, right? I didn't want Metalworks. I wanted something like, for the longest time, it was Burrow built because of the donkeys.
That's good.
But how are you going to catch an invoice for $120,000 with this plush little donkey and Burrow built? Like, it doesn't bring. And then there's a bunch of big ass fans,
man. Like, they've sailed off.
Burrow built, the dumbasses.
Yeah.
There's just too much ass jokes around it. But so
I think that would have suited you well, actually. The way you bring that back.
Yeah.
Nice.
And but yeah, civil steel sounded cool. Just kept just in notebook after notebook, writing different things out. And civil steel, that's cool.
Yeah. Come on.
And so we're civilians. We have the civil standard.
There we go.
There's a bunch of different play on, but
yeah.
That's kind of how I got into it. And even like when my parents come down there, who taught you this? And I'm like, I don't know, right? Nobody taught me how to build a stereo. They certainly didn't in welding school. They didn't teach me how to read a tape measure. But you see I never wanted to be the dumbest person in the room, even though I usually am. But I never wanted to you got that? Yep, I'll go do it. Right. And then I'll go and research. I'll take enough notes that I'll give you what you want, but I might not grasp it right now, but I don't want to ask dumb questions. I don't want to give you the plausibility that I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll turn around and give you. And so even that vent hood that you're talking about, we just had the architect's rendering, right? There's no background in which I started. You went to architecture school, but this derives from here to there. I'm like, oh no, I have a cool idea.
Yeah,
let's do some steel tubes in there, and it's all just creating fun new stuff. And so
it's awesome.
Whenever I look for employees now, I've gotten burned so many times by people coming from welding school being like, I can do all the things, here's the paper that says it. I start looking for kids that went to art school because they have an idea, they know what the finished product is. You just have to teach them or help them take that metal and take it there.
Oh, that's cool.
But try and teach a welder how to be an artist.
Yeah.
Right. And so I actually have a bone to pick with dirty jobs guy.
Micro.
Yeah, micro. I used to think it was so cool what he was doing, championing the trades, and I would use his arguments for me whenever I would go back to college or high school, and they're like, "What is Luke doing?" And I'm like, "Duh!" Like I'm a welder. My buddies are all like owning companies. Granted, I now own a company, but I'd take like Micro's arguments and be like, "Look, right?" And so the issue is that we have so many people that are now being told not to go to college, go into the trades. The trades are dying, and it's all true. But just because you go become a plumber or an electrician, you still have to have the drive. You still have to be good at that thing. But people are like, oh, there's a gap in this trade or any of the trades. I'll go do that. I'll get a job. And you're still in Texas. Like you go and be an HVAC guy. Those guys make a ton of money because they're in an attic with no AC.
Yeah.
Right? An electrician still has to play with 220 and get it right.
Yeah.
Or the house is going to burn. But so many people are like, oh, I'm going to save my money and not go to college. I'll just go to a trade school. But it doesn't give them the burning urge to want to learn to know how to build the thing.
That's an interesting perspective.
Oh, it's so these people just, I went to welding school, give me a job. And so I usually will turn over, you name it, 6th grade, 9th grade math test. I'll just print one out. And I have the answer sheet because I don't have time to do it before them. Take this test. Right? No phone. See, are you? It says 6th grade in front of it. Can you?
That's really like, part of your interview process is a 6th grade math test?
And then I'll make you make me a rectangle, but I'll make up the numbers. And it has to be spot on from square, corner to corner.
That's a good test. Yeah, I like that.
And then you have to blend it out to be paint grade. So like some of the you tell me what weld process you want to do. You want to TIG, MIG, stick, but you're going to have to do 2 processes on it. So you're going to have your 2 favorite that you like to do, or at least one, and then you have to limp through the other one. And then you're going to have exposed welds. So the rectangle or square, depends. It just depends on what day you walk into my office. But I'm going to make you miter 2 corners, and I'm going to make you cap 2 corners. And then I'm going to make you blend 1 miter and 1 capped. You can pick if it's your bad welds, whatever. You can try and blend them. But now you have to get really good with an angle grinder to make it look like that miter never was welded. And so you get these guys that will hyper focus on the finish and then lose the force for the trees on if it's square. And so it's a bunch of different things that I'm going to check. And if I offer you the job, and so this is like, how much am I going to pay you? You turn that thing over.
That's great.
We go out, we paint it so you can see blemishes whenever you paint stuff. Paint it. You sign it or initial it with the date. If I give you a job, you want to raise, you have to do better than that one.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll have these stacks of them. And so if you
that's awesome.
Prove to me that you're better than whenever you walk through the door.
Yeah.
We'll go and pick your thing up, beat that.
That's good. I wish I could apply that because I'm kind of going through issues right now where it's like I'm in a new area and I'm having to work with people that, I don't know. I've never, we never use these people. We don't have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So it's like, God, how do you really know they're good? Sure, a buddy of theirs might give them a good review and be like, "Hey, this guy's great."
Yeah,
it's like,
but what's that standard?
What does that really mean?
What's the reference? Yeah,
man, I wish there was a way, something like that. The thing is, it costs money. Like I can't just say, "Hey, a concrete guy, hey, pour me a pad."
Yeah,
that still costs money.
Yep.
And if I could get 4 different concrete guys, be like, "Hey, go pour me a pad. This is the parameters. Go pour a pad." Don't give them any kind of instruction and just see like what level they want to take it to.
Yeah.
Then I'm trying to work that out. I don't know how that would necessarily work because it's like you got to pay these guys, and that's just a lot of money. That I don't have, and it's like, man, it's such a struggle. Well, and that's brilliant to like really, figure out somebody's skill set. Just give them a test.
What's tough too, though, with that stuff is. On bigger trades, concrete, things like that, you end up having a lot of time like salespeople, right? They come in, and they're giving the joke earlier where you're like, what are you doing? Make sure you're here on time. And I'm like, selfie. I'm on top of a ladder welding.
yeah.
Like, I'm still dirty. My face is covered.
Yeah.
But
I do
whenever
think
you talk to
that's-
me, I'm going to
important.
be at some point hands-on with your thing. And so that's whenever you try and give that test to whatever trade you're trying to apply for, you might be talking to the sales rep for that concrete company or that framing company or whoever it is. And so that foreman doesn't have the bandwidth to come play, entertain, show you, prove this stuff. And what's tough too is like y'all's company carries a lot of weight in Texas of like, oh, it's a Daglish job, right? Like there's a handful of heavy hitters where it's like people just want to do what they can to get in with you, and they might push other clients aside. And then once they're in with you, then you might start getting pushed aside because somebody else came in, right? And so I don't envy what y'all do, but I also think that you hire expecting us to be professionals in our trade. So really, you guys being project managers should just be making sure that we have a clear runway to do what we do, but not looking over his shoulders. Like whenever you have to look over his shoulders, then it's like there's a joke in the trades where it's like the project managers don't you don't swing a hammer.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you know how to swing a hammer better than them.
Yeah.
If you see them out cleaning up and checking things, it's because like you're starting to instill they're not trusting you. Like, not even that, but you have to make sure that it's done right. But like
that's one of the
yourselves.
questions that I get often. People tell them, "Oh, I'm working as a general contractor." They're like, "Oh, like what does that look like? Like, are you self-performing any of the work? And my joke is always it's always a bad day if I'm the one swinging the hammer. Like something has gone very poorly.
Yeah.
So I'm out there with the
at one
sawzall.
point, I was like, I had a bigger company, and my threat was like, if you guys see me pulling my hood out of the truck, like y'all start questioning your jobs. Like I shouldn't be. And then what we ended up doing was getting away from our the civil standard, like I brought up earlier. Like what I sell you guys, any client, is I'm never going to sell work that I can't perform. If all of my company quits tomorrow, I should still be able to do the work.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a lot slower because I'm one man. But I'm never going to sell something where I'm like, I don't know, you guys figure it out. It's good money. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
No, like I have my thought on how this needs to happen. And so I'm going to make sure that it can happen, even if it's just me. And so we started putting out some work that wasn't to the civil standard. And so I had to start like, what's happening here? Like the guys aren't. I always say that no matter your day, your weld is your signature. I can go back through the entirety of my company to any job and should be able to look at a weld and call out which one of my guys did it. And whether that be based on their each weld is a signature, but there can't be any bad, like, I don't care what's happening at home. You're stamping your name on every piece, not my name, your name. We can go back, like if the house falls and they x-ray structural and everything, we're going to figure out who is the person that welded that. Like my insurance company will probably make that happen. Like me as a company, like Civil Steel failed if that happened, but they're going to want to know each weld is your signature. So whether it's a good day or a bad day, you're leaving your name on that project. And so like I drive around Austin from the east side, north side, south side, all around, and you point out projects either down that street we did this house, or at this street corner we did that commercial building, whatever. And so the more and more we do it, the more and more you can't get away from it. And all that work, ideally, your welds will outlast you. And so every day you're putting out your work that'll outlive you. And so you can't, whenever you drive your family down 6th Street, down Congress, whatever. Oh, that was a Tuesday and I wasn't feeling so good. Like, no, they're looking at the project as a whole. If it's not square, if it's not straight, if it's that's your name.
Yeah.
Like, not only is it Civil Steel, when you tell somebody, except I tell people I build stuff all the time, but a lot of the time it's my crew if I'm not personally putting hands on it. But we as a company did it. And so I'm now putting my name on the work that you did.
Yeah.
So we just have to collectively have this standard of the civil standard for us. And that's a huge one, is making sure that work is constantly like kept up with.
That's beautiful. That's very well said. Speaking of beautiful, were you a model?
Oh yeah.
Awkward.
Arguably still am. It just depends if they call me back.
There you go.
I mean, I could see it.
Yeah.
I
The
can't see
handsomest looking homeless fellow I've ever
it.
seen.
No, okay, I can't see it.
No, somebody told me, a friend of ours, that you were a model, and I was like, "There's no freaking way that guy was a model."
Yeah.
But you were a model.
Yeah.
Underwear
So,
model.
Underwear.
I was visiting my sister. I used to ride a Harley all the time, and I stopped in at the clothing store she worked at, and this guy walks up to me. He's like, "How tall are you?"
Like, excuse me? What's up?
6 foot. And he's like, "Okay," and he walks away. And this is a very, very high-end clothing store downtown Austin. I had no right being in there. I can't afford anything. Comes back, "What's your waist size?" Now I'm tripped out.
Yeah,
I'm
you're like, okay, what's up?
And so, I don't know. I'm awkward. I'm like, I tell him, right? Like, at the time, I think it was
You were
29.
flattered, don't lie.
Oh, I was terrified. And so I rush over and I ask my sister, like, "Hey, this guy's like sizing me up." And she's
Are
like,
we about to fight?
He's like in charge of, I don't know, the media, something. Like, he's trying to figure out if you could model for us. And so I did. I had no money. That's whenever I was doing the $12 an hour thing. Heck yeah. And so I go, I'm wearing more money in clothes than I've had, like all of my worldly possessions combined in one outfit. It's so expensive, I can't crease it. They move me around on a dolly. Right? And they would, like a 2-wheel moving dolly. They would move me into position, and I would stand there and smile. And so that's what kicked it off. I made
That's awesome.
I made friends with the photographer, and his name's Bill Salen, super cool guy. But he would use me as like the gruff, like. So I find out, like, so I ended up doing like Tacovas, the city of Marble Falls.
No way.
Yeah, so if you ever get
That's awesome.
Hilarious.
But like, if you need
Thank you, City Marble Falls.
like a
This episode brought to you by City Marble.
Go visit Marble Falls.
Go visit Marble. Wonderful place.
Just a bearded, scrawny, like whatever you want to call me, or however. But my thing was like, I don't know, like if I fit the bill, then sure, like pay me and I'll go hang out.
Yeah.
And so, but that ended up to, there's a company here in town called Zero Foxtrot, and I'm like a regular with those folks, and it's like a military-esque clothing company. I don't know, lifestyle apparel.
Yeah.
But I fit the bill for their blue collar line.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's just it's
So you're still doing it?
yeah,
Hey,
kind
there you
of.
go.
But I've never gotten a
Callback.
no. Who's yeah? Who's the people that an agent? Like I've never had an agency or an agent. So like when people are like, "Are you a model?" I'm like, "I was last time I did it."
Yeah,
like, I don't know
yeah.
It's been fun when they hit me up, but I'll never go as far as getting an agent because I still have to work. Yeah. Like I can't be doing this full time, but it's fun to take off a random Thursday, like going out with Tacovas out to Willie Nelson's ranch, Luck Ranch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Like,
going to take
sweet.
the day off and come do this.
sounds
But
great.
Yeah, man.
all the guys there, all the folks there, all had, was it IMBDs? Like they do commercials for different, like, oh, I was in a Subaru commercial and they paid me. I was like, you get paid how much? So all these guys were complaining about these gigs that they're a part of because their agent got, this is what they do full time. And so they're going back and forth and they're like, what do you do? Or like, who's your agent? Whatever. Like they want to know who the random new guy is.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a welder.
Yeah, you're like,
I got no.
they told me to
skin
show
in
up
this
at this
game.
address, and I did. So
And
that's awesome.
it's a really really strange. Like they take themselves very seriously. The one guy I saw him on a commercial for this. This is like a skin like scabies commercial where it's like he's at the picnic and he's jumping into the water and then like the thing goes across the screen and he has clearer skin and like take these things, it might make you blind, deaf, and like all that. But, so I saw him at another shoot and I'm like, hey man, did you get that skin condition? He didn't find it funny at all. Like it's way too serious. And I'm like, you guys just change clothes and get paid for it. Like this is crazy.
Just relax.
And they make so much money. I'm like, man. But no, I would never give it up, welding up for that. But it is really fun to like jump back and forth. And I just look at it as a way to get professional photography for a snapshot in your life.
There you
That's
go.
cool.
But there's a bunch of like my work being in Lux. That's how we say it, right? Luxe.
Lux, yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Lux.
yeah.
My work being in Lux is way cooler than like me being in any magazines that I'll be in.
Yeah.
But it is still fun to see, like I've been in different catalogs for clothing and
That's great.
it's fun because like you have it on the coffee table and somebody's like, is that you?
Like, wait a second.
Yeah, it just flips the script.
Looks good.
But being on the cover of Lux is like,
That's
you're
pretty
like,
cool.
that's
very
cool,
rewarding.
but look at
You're
this.
like,
And they're like, look at
You're
that
like,
window.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I did that window.
That's incredible.
It's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
The modeling thing is I don't know. It's funny. It's fun to.
That's
fun to
pretty
talk
cool,
about.
man.
Yeah.
But Luke, you have a really interesting story, very very cool background, and you know I always enjoy getting the opportunity to work with you and to meet with you and just have fun and laugh and so I appreciate your time coming on and talking with us. So
Absolutely. If
Yeah.
any of
More
y'all
good
want to
times.
go, I want to say it's civil-steel.com, civil_steel on Instagram. But be warned, we just don't post on social media that much. I think there's something to be said
I don't
about
either. That's fine.
somewhat of a pissing contest when it comes to that kind of stuff. But you can kind of see the active portfolio. My wife's trying to take over the social and keep up with that. But
Heck yeah.
We'll include links, to
Great.
your website, your Instagram in the podcast description, and then
we're bad at marketing. We try not to. We're
Dude,
all word
I
of
get
mouth.
it. I'm right there with you. But I appreciate you coming on, man.
Gentlemen.
Always great to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me out.
Yeah, thank you.